The last human ships left without speeches, without warnings, and without ceremony. They did not fire weapons or close borders with force. They simply turned away. Across thousands of systems, sensors watched the same quiet motion as human fleets changed course and vanished into deep space. At first, the galaxy thought it was a mistake. Trade stations waited for replies that never came. Diplomatic halls sent messages that returned empty. Human signals faded one by one, like stars being gently blown out. No alarms were raised. No emergency meetings were called. Humanity had always been strange, emotional, and unpredictable. Many believed this was just another phase. Jayan stood alone on the wide observation deck of the Helios Ring Station. He wore no uniform now. He had removed the human insignia from his coat weeks ago, though no one had asked him to. Through the clear shield before him, space stretched wide and calm. Ships of many species moved along bright lanes of light, busy and confident. None of them were human. Jayan had served as a liaison for over 12 years. He had translated not only language, but intent, fear, and hope. He had believed in the compact, in shared defense, in unity. He had believed humanity had finally found its place among the stars. Then the orders came. They were short, clear. Final, all human assets were to withdraw from shared space. All joint projects were to be abandoned. All human citizens were to return home or move beyond the mapped edges of the galaxy. No explanations were to be given. No debates were allowed. Jayan remembered reading the message again and again, hoping he had misunderstood it. He had contacted command. He had contacted old friends. No one answered. Only automated systems replied, repeating the same words in flat, motionless tones. Humanity was leaving. Behind him, the station remained loud. Voices echoed in many languages. Traders argued. Children laughed. Officials complained about delays and missing contracts. Life went on, untouched by the silent disaster unfolding. Jin leaned his hands against the glass. His reflection looked older than he felt. Dark hair streaked with gray. Eyes that had seen too much to still be surprised. They don't know, he said softly. Though no one stood near him, the galaxy did not know why humanity had turned its back, and that ignorance was dangerous. Days passed. Then weeks, human manufacturing hubs shut down across shared space. Medical research stations were left empty, tools still warm from recent use. Defense platforms powered down and drifted in silent orbits. Species that had relied on human support began to panic, though none would say it aloud. Council members argued behind closed doors. Some demanded sanctions. Others laughed and said humanity would return once they realized how much they were needed. A few spoke of betrayal. No one spoke of fear. Jayan attended the final council session as an observer. He was no longer an official representative, but protocol allowed him to remain. He listened as leaders argued over lost trade routes and broken agreements. They are cowards, one counselor said. They ran when unity became difficult. They always thought themselves special, said another. Now they sulk in isolation, Jin wanted to shout. He wanted to tell them about the files he had seen, about the sealed reports and blacked-out discoveries, about the strange readings that no one else could explain. But he stayed silent. Humanity had not asked him to defend them. That night, Jayan returned to his small quarters. He packed slowly, choosing only what he could carry. A worn datapad, a simple jacket, a small token from Earth, smooth stone from a quiet river. He did not know where he would go. Only that staying felt wrong as he prepared to leave. The station lights dimmed briefly. Emergency systems flickered, then returned to normal. An announcement blamed a minor power shift. Jayan felt a cold tighten in his chest. He checked the external feeds. For a moment, nothing seemed out of place. Then he noticed it. A star at the edge of the system looked dimmer, not dying, not collapsing, just quieter. He had seen that pattern before, long ago. During a classified mission near the Galactic Rim, human sensors had detected similar readings. Space itself had behaved strangely there. Signals had bent. Time had stuttered. A research ship had vanished without debris or trace. The report had been sealed, the team disbanded, the location erased. Jin sat heavily on the edge of his bunk. His hands trembled. So it started, he whispered, across the galaxy. Far beyond the reach of most sensors, something was moving. Not ships, not energy. Something older. Something that did not care about borders or treaties. Humanity had seen it first, and humanity had understood what it meant. The next day, panic began to spread. A mining colony failed to report in. At first, officials blamed equipment failure. Rescue teams were sent. They never returned. Long-range scans showed nothing where the colony had been. No explosion. No wreckage, just empty space. The council ordered silence. Do not alarm the public, they said. We lack confirmed data. Jayan watched the news feeds with growing dread. He recognized the signs too well. He remembered the human scientists arguing in low voices, the way even the most confident among them had gone quiet. This was not war. This was not invasion. This was consumption. Humanity had not turned its back out of pride. They had turned away to stand in front of the storm. As days passed, more systems went dark. Always at the edges. Always quiet. The galaxy still refused to see the pattern. Each species believed it was someone else's problem. Jayan boarded a civilian transport bound for the outer lanes. The ship was crowded with traders and workers, all angry about delays and missing human support. They left us, a passenger said loudly. Let them regret it. Jayan said nothing. Through the viewport, he watched the stars slide past. He wondered how many of them would still be there in a year. The transport passed near an abandoned human relay. Its structure drifted slowly, lights dark, symbols faded. Jayan felt a deep ache in his chest. Humanity had built bridges everywhere, and now they had burned them all, not out of hate, out of duty, as the ship jumped too faster than light. Jayan closed his eyes. Somewhere far beyond known space, human fleets were gathering. Old shipyards were waking. Weapons that had never been meant for war were being prepared. Humanity was not running. They were digging in the galaxy. Loud and proud and blind, had no idea how close it was to the end. The galaxy tried to move on at first. It was almost easy. Trade lanes adjusted. New suppliers replaced human factories. Council statements assured the public that stability remained strong. News channels spoke carefully, choosing calm words and soft tones. Humanity became a topic of jokes and frustration rather than fear. They needed us more than we needed them, many said. Others claimed humanity would return soon, embarrassed and desperate. The idea comforted them. Only a few noticed how quiet space was becoming. Hannah worked in the Central Archive, a place filled with forgotten knowledge and half-used data. She was small, with short dark hair and tired eyes that missed very little. While others searched for profit or power, Hannah searched for patterns. Human records filled entire vaults. Most of them had not been touched since the withdrawal. The council had ordered a review, but no one cared enough to do it properly, so Hannah did. She read human research notes, old mission logs, and private warnings marked for restricted access. Many files were damaged or incomplete, as if deliberately broken. That disturbed her. Humans did not destroy knowledge without reason as she worked. Reports of missing systems continued to arrive. Small outposts vanished. Survey drones failed to return. Each case was handled separately, blamed on local failures. Hannah began placing the locations on a map. A shape formed. It was slow, careful, moving inward. She felt a chill run through her. Hannah requested a meeting with her supervisor. He barely looked up from his screen. Coincidences, he said. Space is dangerous. Stop wasting time on human ghosts. Hannah returned to her desk, anger burning quietly inside her. That night, long after the archive lights dimmed, she accessed a sealed human backup node. It opened without resistance. That frightened her more than any locked door. Inside were fragments, warnings, raw sensor data. One phrase appeared again and again. written in different hands. Not an enemy. Not a force. A process. Hannah leaned back in her chair, breathing slowly. She remembered old human stories about storms that could not be fought. They survived. Meanwhile, far from the core worlds, Commander Daehyun stood on the bridge of a non-human patrol ship. He wore their uniform now, its sharp lines and cold colors a reminder that his species had chosen unity over loyalty. He had not expected to feel this empty. The patrol moved along the outer border, scanning regions most fleets ignored. Orders were simple: observe, report, avoid risk. Daehyun did not trust those orders. His crew was quiet. Even the most confident officers spoke less. Space ahead looked wrong. Stars shimmered faintly as if seen through water. Slow the ship. Daehyun ordered. The sensors screamed. Reality bent. A distant station folded in on itself. Not exploding, not breaking apart, but vanishing as if it had never existed. No weapons, no warnings, just absence. The crew froze. Daehyun felt his heart pound, but his voice stayed steady. Pull back. Full retreat. Ship barely escaped. When they reported the event, command delayed the response. Data analysts argued. Politicians demanded proof. By the time anyone agreed it was serious, the region was already gone. Daehyun requested to contact human space. The request was denied. Back in the core, fear began to leak through the calm surface. Insurance networks collapsed. Colonists demanded protection. Fleets were redeployed, chasing shadows. Still, no one spoke the word extinction. Jin watched it all from a quiet listening post near the abandoned lanes. He had moved carefully, avoiding attention. His ship was old, but reliable, filled with equipment stripped from forgotten human. Relays. He listened to open channels. He heard the doubt, the anger, the denial. They still don't. See it, he said to the empty cabin. A message arrived at last, short, encrypted hold position. Observe only. Humanity was waiting for proof that the galaxy could not ignore. Hannah finally broke protocol. She sent her findings to multiple channels, including public ones. The council tried to block it. Fragments spread too fast. Citizens saw the maps. They saw the pattern. Panic followed. Worlds demanded answers. Fleets demanded direction. The council fractured under pressure. Too late, another system vanished. Then another. Daehyun stood before his crew as alarms echoed through the ship. He saw fear in every face. This is not a battle we can win, he said quietly. For the first time, no one argued. Jin looked toward the dark edge of the galaxy. Somewhere beyond sight, humanity was building walls of fire and silence. They had turned their backs, so they could face the end alone. And the galaxy was finally starting to understand fear. No longer hid behind calm words, it spread openly. Now news channels stopped pretending. Emergency signals interrupted normal broadcasts. Across the galaxy, people stared at screens showing the same impossible images: empty systems, broken star maps, and regions marked only with dark space. The galaxy had a new border, and it was moving. Hannah barely slept. The archive had become a place of shouting voices and rushed footsteps. Data clerks worked without pause, pulling records that should have stayed buried. The council demanded answers, and the archives were the only place left to look. Hannah focused on human files. She trusted them more than any official statement. The deeper she searched, the darker the truth became. Human scientists had known about the pattern for decades. Long before the compact had formed, long before shared borders and united fleets, they had called it many names. But none truly fit. It was not alive in the way species understood life. It did not think. It reacted. Connected systems attracted it. Shared networks fed it. The more the galaxy unified, the faster it moved. Hannah's hand shook as she read the final assessment. Total resistance probability, 0. Delay probability, acceptable cost, humanity. She closed the file and stared at the blank wall in front of her. Her throat felt tight. Humans had not chosen survival. They had chosen time. Across the galaxy, fleets rushed to defend worlds that could not be defended. Borders were sealed. Old enemies declared false peace. Driven by shared terror, none of it mattered. The darkness did not attack fleets. It ignored them, Commander. Daehyun watched from the bridge as another patrol vanished from sensors. No explosion, no debris, just silence. His ship shook as space twisted nearby. Navigation systems failed. One officer began to scream, clawing at her helmet as if something unseen pressed against her mind. Daehyun ordered a retreat again. They escaped. Barely. Afterward, he sat alone in his quarters. Staring at his hands, he remembered human training manuals, old lessons about retreat not being weakness. He finally understood them. Back near the abandoned lanes, JN received new instructions. Prepare channel. That was all humanity. Was ready to speak. The message went out across every open frequency. Not as a broadcast from the council. Not as a demand, as a confession. A single human voice filled the channels. Tom. Steady. We left because staying would have killed you faster. The galaxy listened. Images followed. Data. Proof. Star. Maps showing the spread before and after human withdrawal. We discovered it first. The voice continued. We tried every solution. We failed. Worlds went silent as understanding settled in. We disconnected because connection feeds it. We isolated because isolation slows it. Hannah watched the transmission with tears in her eyes. You hated us for leaving, the voice said. We accepted that. Daehyun stood frozen as the truth washed over him. We are buying you time, the voice finished. Do not follow us. The signal ended. The galaxy broke. Panic turned to grief. Anger turned to shame. Leaders who had mocked humanity now begged for guidance. No, reply came. Human space was sealed. Jin powered down the transmitter and leaned back in his chair. His hands trembled now that the silence returned. They know, he whispered, but knowing did not save them. The darkness reached. The first core world, its star dimmed, and for the first time in galactic history, the night truly began. After the message, the galaxy changed its tone. Hope did not appear, only understanding. Worlds that once argued over trade, now argued over evacuation routes. Long plans were torn apart and rewritten overnight. Fleets stopped chasing the darkness and instead tried to slow panic. They failed. People ran. Crowded ports overflowed with refugees. Ships left half full, then overfilled, then broke apart under the strain. Families were separated. Records were lost. Entire cultures packed themselves into data cores and prayed they would survive long enough to be read again. Hannah stood before the council at last. They listened now. She spoke slowly, choosing words with care. Humanity did not abandon us, she said. They stepped out of the fire so we would not burn faster. Some counselors lowered their eyes. Others stared ahead in silence. What do we do? One of them asked. Hannah hesitated. She had read the human conclusion. You survive as long as you can, she said, and you stay apart. That answer broke something inside the room. Unity had been the galaxy's greatest pride. Now it was a weakness across the outer regions. Commander Daehyun received new orders. He was to escort civilian convoys away from the advancing edge. The task felt useless, but he obeyed. Every jump cost lives. Ships vanished mid-escape. Some crews went mad, claiming they could hear whispers through the hall. Daehyun learned not to look back. He saw a transport ship fail to clear the jump point. Space bent around it, stretching it thin before it disappeared. He did not speak for a long time afterward. Near the sealed human border, Jayan waited. He watched distant flashes of light as something massive struck the first human defense line. The sensors struggled to translate what they saw. Energy levels broke known limits. Space folded inward and snapped back. Human ships did not retreat. They held. Jin felt both pride and fear twist together in his chest. Humanity had built this line quietly, patiently, while the galaxy argued. Messages arrived from human command. Short updates. Heavy losses hold position, always the same words. Hannah uncovered the last hidden layer of human records by accident. A key embedded in an old cultural archive unlocked it. Inside was not data. It was a plan not for victory, for erasure. Humanity had built something terrible. A device that would collapse space itself, destroying the darkness by denying its structure. It would also destroy everything nearby, including them. Hannah felt sick. She understood. Now why humanity had cut all ties. No one else could be allowed near that choice. The darkness pressed harder. Core worlds trembled. Stars dimmed in clusters now, faster than before. Daehyun's fleet was caught in a wave of distortion. His ship spun violently. Systems failed. For a moment, he felt his thoughts slipping. As if something reached inside him, he screamed for the crew to cut power. Silence saved them. They drifted, powerless, until the pressure passed. Afterward, his ship was alone. No other signals answered. Daehyun bowed his head. He had survived. He did not know. Why Jan received a new message. Prepare for final phase. He closed his eyes. The time humanity had bought was running out across the galaxy. Hannah looked at the stars and wondered how many would remain when the choice was finally made. Humanity had not turned its back to be forgiven. They had done it to finish what only they could begin. The center could not hold. That was the phrase spreading. Through broken networks and frightened minds, no one remembered where it began. It simply felt true. The Galactic Compact no longer met as one body. Worlds spoke only to themselves now. Borders closed. Long friendships ended with silent channel cuts. Unity collapsed into fear-driven survival. The darkness did not slow. It moved faster than before, as if learning. Regions that once took weeks to fade now vanished in days. Sometimes hours. Hannah worked without rest. She no longer waited for permission. The council had lost control, and everyone knew it. She gathered what knowledge she could and sent it to any world still listening. Disconnect shared systems, she told them. Cut long-range links. Go quiet. Some listened, most did not. Too many worlds depended on shared networks to live. Turning them off meant chaos, starvation, and civil collapse. Many chose the darkness instead, hoping for rescue that would never come. Hannah watched system after system disappear from her maps. She marked them with shaking hands, feeling as if she were writing names on a grave, far from the core. Commander Daehyun guided his damaged ship through debris-filled space. His crew was gone now. Lost in earlier distortions, pulled away by forces he could not fight, he remained alone on the bridge. Surrounded by quiet machines and flickering lights, he thought often of humanity. He remembered how human officers had trained beside him, laughing, easily, arguing loudly, always preparing for worst cases no one else wanted to imagine. Now he understood why. Daehyun received a weak signal. Human in origin coordinates. He hesitated only a moment before changing course. Near the sealed human border. Jaehyun felt the shockwaves before he saw them. Entire sectors lit up with violent distortions as the darkness struck human defenses again and again. Human. Fleets burned. They did not retreat. Each loss bought minutes. Sometimes seconds. Jin listened to internal channels filled with calm voices reporting impossible damage. Line. Holding casualties acceptable. We proceed. Clenched his fists until his hands hurt. Humanity was bleeding itself dry. Hannah uncovered a final message hidden deep in the human archives. It was not technical. It was personal. A warning meant for anyone who survived. If you are reading this, the message said, then we failed to keep you unaware. We are sorry. Tears blurred Hannah's vision. We chose this, the message continued, because someone had to. The darkness reached the last major core fleet. It did not fight. It passed through. Ships lost power. Minds fractured. Entire command structures fell apart in moments. The galaxy's greatest defense ended without a battle. Daehyun arrived at the coordinates and found a human outpost drifting, heavily damaged but active. Automated systems pulled his ship into a dock. Human engineers greeted him without surprise. "You came," one of them said simply. Daehyun nodded. "We need every witness," the human said. Jin received the final update he had been dreading. Final phase approved. The weapon would be activated soon. Humanity would end the darkness or disappear with it. Across the galaxy. Hannah felt it before she saw it. Space itself seemed to hold its breath. Stars flickered. Time stretched thin. Humanity was about to make its final choice. And the galaxy, broken and afraid, could do nothing but watch. Silence spread before the end. It was not peaceful. It was heavy, pressing down on every thought, every signal, every living mind. Across the galaxy, communication lagged. Words arrived late or not at all. Even light seemed slower. Near the human border, space burned. Human fleets moved with cold purpose. Their ships were scarred, darkened, stripped of all signs meant for diplomacy. They did not look like explorers anymore. They looked like tools built for one task. Jaehyun watched the battle from his post. Hands steady, despite the storm of data flooding his screens. Loss reports scrolled endlessly. Ship names vanished. One after another, no one screamed. No one begged. Human voices remained calm. Target holding. Containment. Stable. Proceed. Each word carried the weight of lives. At the center of the human line stood Yura. She commanded from a deep space. Control stations surrounded by layers of empty space. She was not tall. She did not shout. Her face showed no anger, only focus. She had accepted her role long ago. The weapon was ready. It was not a bomb. It did not explode. It rewrote space, collapsing structure itself into nothing. Where it activated, there would be no matter, no energy, no path for the darkness to exist. There would also be no return. While URA reviewed the final checks. Engineers confirmed stability. Scientists confirmed the models. Military officers confirmed losses. All acceptable, they said. Yura nodded. She thought of Earth, of rain and wind, and simple days. No one had time to miss. She gave the order across the galaxy. Hannah felt it. A deep vibration passed through space. Not sound, not motion, but change. Her instruments screamed as reality itself, bent beyond safe limits. She understood. Humanity had begun, Commander.
Daehyun
Stood among human crews inside the outpost. He watched as displays filled with impossible shapes and collapsing light. "What happens to you?" he asked quietly. A human officer beside him did not look away from the screen. "We end," she said. Daehyun swallowed. The darkness reacted. For the first time, it resisted. Space twisted violently. Human ships vanished faster now, torn apart by forces no armor could stop. Still, the line held. Every second mattered. Jane felt the station shudder. Warnings flashed red. He rerouted power again and again, keeping channels open just long enough. He sent one last message outward. "Live," he said. No signature, no name. The weapon activated there. Was no flash, no sound. A region of space simply ceased. The darkness screamed without voice as its structure unraveled. The advance stopped, then reversed, then collapsed inward, drawn into the growing end. Void where nothing could exist. Human ships closest to the center vanished. Instantly, Yura watched the final readings. Containment. Successful, collapse, irreversible. Human survival probability, 0. She closed her eyes. Jin felt the station begin to fade. Systems shut down one by one as space itself thinned. He smiled faintly. This was enough, he whispered. The control station vanished. The human border vanished. Humanity vanished across the galaxy. The pressure lifted. Signals stabilized. Stars burned steady again. Hannah collapsed to her knees, tears streaming down her face. "It's over," she said. But the silence that followed was worse than the fear. Humanity was gone. They had turned their backs and paid the final price. The galaxy woke slowly. For a long time, no one trusted the quiet. Sensors showed stable space. Stars burned normally. Long-range scans found no signs of the darkness. Still, worlds waited, afraid that silence was only a pause. Before the end, days passed, then weeks. Nothing. Return the truth settled in at last. Humanity was gone. The galaxy had. Survived. Hannah stood on a rebuilt observation platform above her homeworld. The air was thin and cold, but clear. She looked up at the stars and tried to imagine which ones no longer existed. Many records had been lost, but some survived. Human archives, saved by chance and care, became the most valuable knowledge in existence. Not their weapons, their warnings. Hannah worked as a historian now. Her task was simple and impossible at the same time. She had to tell the truth, not the comforting truth, the real one. She recorded how humanity had seen the end first, how they had chosen isolation over praise, how they had accepted hatred so others could live longer. Some worlds listened, some did not, but none could deny the proof written into the empty space where humanity once stood. Commander Daehyun survived. His ship had been thrown far from the collapse zone. He drifted for days before rescue found him. He woke in a quiet medical bay, surrounded by unfamiliar faces. They treated him gently, as if he were fragile. He was Daehyun, left the fleet soon after. He could not wear another uniform. Instead, he traveled. He spoke to worlds that still believed strength came from numbers and unity alone. Humanity stood alone, he told them. And that saved you, some argued. Most listened. Statues began to appear. Not of soldiers, not of weapons, but of simple human figures, standing with their backs turned, facing empty space in one city. A child asked her parent why the statues did not face the people, because they were watching the dark. The parent replied, "Years passed, the galaxy rebuilt, slower now, quieter. Shared networks were smaller, borders were respected. Long-range connections were used with care. Fear never fully left, and that was good." Hannah visited the edge of known space once. Her sensors marked a perfect absence. She placed a small marker there, not visible to scans, only to memory. For those who stood where no one else would, she said. Softly, no answer came, but she did not expect one. Humanity had turned its back on the galaxy, so the galaxy could face the future, and in the endless dark between stars, the silence remained not empty, but earned. It survived. But survival changed its shape. Years after the silence, new generations grew under stars that felt different. Children were taught how to read old maps, and why some regions were marked with nothing but empty black. Teachers spoke softly when they explained that those places were not unexplored. They were paid for. Hannah aged quietly. Lines formed around her eyes, not from sorrow alone, but from long nights spent writing and rewriting history so it could not be twisted. She refused simple stories. She refused comfort. Humanity had not been perfect, but they had been honest when it mattered. She worked in a small archive now, far from any capital. People traveled long distances to visit it. Some came in silence. Some came angry. Some came seeking proof that the story was real. Hannah showed them the recordings, the star maps, the final human transmissions. She never added her own words. The truth was heavy enough, Commander. Daehyun returned one last time to the edge of the absence. His hair was gray now. His hands shook slightly when he removed his gloves and placed them on the cold metal floor of his ship. He stood alone and faced the nothing, I remember, he said. Quietly, there was no echo across the galaxy. Technology advanced again, but carefully. No shared mind networks. No galaxy-wide systems. Every connection was questioned, tested, and limited. Fear became discipline, and discipline became survival. Sometimes, strange signals appeared at the edge of sensors. Weak, unclear. Many dismissed them as noise or cosmic after-effects of the collapse. A few did not. Hannah saw one of those reports late one night. The pattern was faint, barely more than a whisper in the data. It meant nothing on its own, but it felt familiar. She did not publish it. She archived it, far beyond known space, where even the darkness had once failed to exist. Something moved. Not a return, not a rebirth, a memory. Humanity had not survived in bodies or ships or worlds, but their choice had left an imprint. Space itself carried the mark of what had been done there. The galaxy did not know if that mark would fade or endure. A child on a distant world stood before a statue of a human figure facing away from her. She reached out and touched the cold surface. Were they brave? She asked. Her parent knelt beside her. They were afraid, the parent said, and they acted anyway. The child nodded. Satisfied, that answer was enough. The stars burned on, and the galaxy remembered. Time softened the sharpest pain, but it did not erase it. The galaxy learned how to live with absence. New routes were drawn that curved around the empty regions. Navigators taught apprentices how to feel for pressure in space, small warnings that instruments could miss. Every ship carried rules written after the silence. Disconnect early. Travel light. Trust quiet. Hannah continued her work, slower now, more careful. She reviewed old human recordings again, not for facts, but for tone. She listened to how they spoke when they thought no one else would hear. There was fear there, yes, but also humor, patience, and a steady belief that choosing less could save more. She added one small note to the archive. Her only personal line: they chose limits. On a distant trade world, a small ceremony took place without announcement. No leaders attended. No cameras recorded it. A group of travelers placed a ring of lights around a simple marker that faced empty space. They stood in silence, then left. Rituals like this spread without permission. No one owned them. Commander Daehyun spent his days teaching. He taught pilots how to shut down systems without panic. He taught officers how to retreat without shame. He taught children that strength was not noise. Sometimes when the sky was clear, he told them about human ships that held a line no one else could see. He never said goodbye at the edge of a quiet system. Sensors detected a brief, gentle ripple. It was not dangerous. It did not grow. It faded within moments, analysts argued. Some called it residue, some called it coincidence. Hannah filed it under a familiar pattern and closed the case. The galaxy did not rush to connect again. That restraint became its greatest inheritance. Years later, a child asked why some stars were never named. Because names can pull things close, her teacher said. The lesson stayed in the deep dark where humanity had ended. Space remained still. No signals passed through. No echoes returned. The void did not spread. It held. And because it held, the galaxy endured. Life continued, careful and bright in small ways. Markets returned, modest and local. Art grew quiet and honest. Stories became warnings instead of boasts. Humanity was not myth, it was memory, and memory was enough. The first sign did not come as fear. It came as confusion. Research station on the far edge of mapped. Space reported a reading that did not fit any known model. The numbers were not high or violent. They were quiet, steady, and deeply wrong. Space behaved as if it remembered being shaped before The report was logged, reviewed, and nearly dismissed. Nearly Hannah was old now. Her hands shook when she held a data slate and her eyes tired quickly. But her mind was sharp, trained by years of loss and pattern. When the report crossed her desk, she felt a familiar weight settle in her chest. She had felt it before. Long ago, she requested the raw data. Then more, then everything connected to the region. The shape appeared slowly, not an advance, not a hunger, an echo. Hannah closed her eyes. Humanity had ended the darkness by tearing a wound into reality itself. They had removed something ancient. But nothing so large vanished without leaving scars. Scars could heal or change. Across the galaxy, people still lived carefully. Ships traveled shorter paths. Worlds remained local. The great mistake of blind unity was taught as history, not as shame, but as warning. That was why the galaxy survived. But survival did not mean safety forever. Dayon was gone now. His body returned to dust beneath a sky he loved. His teachings remained. Schools still used his simple rules. Quiet first. Distance is strength. Retreat is wisdom. Those rules slowed panic when the new reports began to spread. Hannah spoke to the council one final time. There is no enemy, she said. Not yet. Her voice was thin, but clear. There is a change, and we must not rush to fill it. Some argued, some listened. Enough listened, exploration was paused. Networks tightened. Old human safeguards were copied and reused. Their simple logic proving stronger than newer designs. Hannah smiled faintly at that. Humanity had always favored what worked over what looked impressive at the edge of the absence. Space shifted again. This time, something remained, not a ship, not a signal, a structure, small, stable, silent. Probes approached slowly, cautiously, obeying every rule written after the silence. They reported no threat, no pull, no hunger, only form, as if space had folded and decided to stay that. Way Hannah watched the images. She felt no fear. She felt grief. Humanity's sacrifice had changed the laws of the galaxy. In doing so, they had created something new. A place where collapse had been forced into stillness. A boundary, not a door, not a return. A reminder the galaxy did not celebrate. There were no parades, no bold claims of a new age. Instead, people gathered in small groups. They looked at the stars. They remembered children were told the full story now. Not softened by time. Humanity saw the end. Humanity stepped forward alone. Humanity paid the price. And because of that, others had the chance to choose better. Hannah recorded her final entry. Survival is not victory, she said. It is responsibility. She sealed the archive with human encryption one last time and powered it down. Her work was finished, at the edge of space. The structure held. It did not grow. It did not fade. It simply existed. The galaxy learned to live with it. Just as it had learned to live without humanity, the stars burned on carefully, and in the silence between them, the memory of humanity remained, not as saviors, not as gods, but as people who understood one simple truth. Sometimes, turning your back is the only way to stand between the dark and everyone else.